Magic108fm.com. This is Earl the Pearl in the Magic Market Broadcast Briefing, and we're happy to talk with radio extraordinaire Mr. Bobby Wonder, who is a radio travel man. He has been in the radio business for a very long time, a great announcer, worked in several different markets. We had the honor of working together in Macon, Georgia. He's worked in Atlanta, worked in Kansas City, Missouri. He now resides in North Carolina. He's got a very successful credit repair business going. And he has just obtained a passport to travel with. And many of you guys are thinking about traveling. And of course, you need a passport to travel around the world. So Bobby has some good information for you to get a particular type of passport that would be an advantage to you. He told me, and it blew me away. And I'm bringing him right here to you. So you can experience what he told me. He blew me away. Bobby Wonder, welcome.
Good morning, Earl. Good morning, Kansas City. Good morning, Atlanta. Good morning, St. Louis, and those of you listening around the world. It's on you now, man. Ask me a question, and then we'll roll into it. And we try to educate your audience, and I can say our audience, because I'm used to doing radio, so I take it personal that I'm talking to each individual one-on-one. So I'm ready to begin with the questioning, sir.
All right. We're happy to have you, man. So tell us what made you get a passport in the beginning.
Earl, when one is trying to find himself in this world, you ask questions, why am I here, what's the purpose, and what's going on? So by us being indoctrinated with the educational system of the United States of America, minor, which is a government that's in place but not of the land. So there's two laws going on. There's one with the executive orders, which is the president, and presidents are in charge of corporations. There's no president that oversees the land. You're either a king, queen, or somebody in that nature. So the major is the government on the land. In order to have sovereignty, you must be associated with the government on the land. So with that said, I did a lot of studying and research, so I needed a passport. You and I talked about this a couple of times, because those of you who don't know, Earl got some jewels too, but he doesn't divulge all the jewels. But anyway, Earl had done some things, and we talked about it a year or two later, and I was like, damn, I'm slacking because Earl rolling with it. So what I did was I applied for the passport. Now, here's the deal with the passport. There's two types of passports. There's a U.S. citizen passport, and there's an American national passport. The U.S. citizen passport keeps you in the system of the minor government, which is operating in commerce, and you guys don't really know it. You think that the laws that they pass are for you, but they're not. They're really like executive orders, because they're not of the land, so they cannot or have jurisdiction to pass law that affects you if you're associated with the land. Now, if you're associated with the land, a lot of these laws don't apply to you. Now, let's get you the passport. Okay, so I applied for the passport. So when I got the passport, I called Earl like a kid in a candy store, excited, blah, blah, blah. So now I'm getting ready to take a trip to Kansas City. This has never happened to me before. Normally, I would present when they ask for ID, they ask for a driver license. But you must know this. A driver license is not an official ID. All that does is track you with the numbers associated with that specified ID.
Okay.
So I presented the passport. So I presented the passport. They took the passport and look at the screen and stuff. Now, when you go through security, there's a long line. For some reason, and I knew it was the passport in my heart and in my mind, they told me to go to this line over there. There was only two people over there. So I get through security in less than 2 minutes. On the way back, they said you have some type of specified luggage thing. So I had priority. There's a big red tag said priority on my luggage. And when I arrived back to Raleigh, North Carolina, the first luggage off the plane was mine. So the passport American national means that they recognize you as a human being and not a subject, because a U.S. citizen is a subject of the United States of America minor. So that's basically what that was. So having now when they ask for ID, I give them that. Now I got two two forms of passport. I have the card, which is domestic, which means you can go to Mexico and show the card. And if you go to Canada, you can show the card. Now, if you travel abroad, you must have the book. So when you apply for your passport, this is what you need to do. Anywhere that they indicate U.S. citizen, because they ask you if your parents are U.S. citizen and are you a U.S. citizen. There's 3 different spots, if memory serves me correctly. You always put non-U.S. citizen. It takes you out the system with your ID, so when they run your ID, they don't treat you like a U.S. citizen. A U.S. citizen has no rights, according to law. And if you black and you say you black, you have no standing in law because there's no such thing as a black person. So when you see black on your license and stuff, that means they can treat you any way they want to because you do not belong to you don't claim your nationality. So all of this coincides how they view you when you look at your passport. Now, if your passport says American national, if they stop you, it says do not detain, do not ask questions, and let that person go. Now, they will never tell you that, so you need to get if you have a relationship with any police officer, have them run it so you can see what it actually says. So when you're confronted, you can go verbatim what it says on his screens, because he's not going to tell you, because he's not going to wake you up if you sleep. Because now you're taking out the system, and they make money because you're in the system. Remember, United States minor, which has presidents, is a commerce entity. They are in it to make money. If you're American national, you are of the land, and they have no jurisdiction over you unless you surrender it. Anything that you do with the United States government, they always ask you questions. Please sign here and all this stuff, like on the 1040 form. That means that you volunteered to be a U.S. citizen, and you don't have to do that. So that's a little awakening in that subject matter as we talk about these passports.
You know, Bobby, many of us are thinking, what's wrong with being a U.S. citizen?
Being a U.S. citizen, you have no rights. You only have privileges. Driver license, marriage license, driving around in the United States when it's a right as opposed to a privilege. When you have rights and you speak on your rights and you execute your rights, you're treated totally different, and you're treated with respect and honor. Being a U.S. citizen, most people that's a U.S. citizen don't connect to no land. They don't connect to their heritage, their culture, or their bloodline. We all come from somewhere where there was always law. There was always law, and us being melanated people established that law worldwide thousands and thousands of years ago. So the practice that they're doing now, the governmental practices that we witnessed, we gave them that. So they flipped the script on us and made us U.S. citizens, took us out of our natural habitat. And when you're out your natural habitat, I have to treat you on the laws I give to you because you're coming to me for how you live, how you think, how you get educated. So I create laws because you don't have it. And when you're presented, you're not in your proper person. Proper person is identifying you by your nationality first. So that's why it's important. And U.S. citizens are government territorial things. Used and the territorial rights are indicated by the zip codes. So the United States got about 12 districts. All of them are under the auspices of Washington, D.C. So when you are a property, that's just a hell of a word, a property of that entity, not a human being of that entity. That's why, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. When the police are trying to identify somebody who committed a crime or suspected of committing a crime, they never cite their nationality. They'll say black male, white male, 5'10". There's no nationality. The reason why they do that, because if you understand your rights, he has to establish his nationality to deal with you. If he doesn't cite his nationality, he can't deal with you. Now, once he does that, you're out of the jurisdiction of the United States citizenship and all the other stuff that they got us fooled. And now, once he does that, now you become the government, the law, if you know law. That's why they say study thyself to show thyself approved. Now, Islam is very much related to that, because that was our way of life. Notice I said our way of life, not
Okay,
religion.
okay.
So if you take Islam and you take the words and break it down, I, self, law, am master. You are the law once you know the law and know how to apply the law and execute the law.
Man, now that was a mouthful. And see, that was awesome. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot of questions. And I want to have a part 2 to this so people can absorb this. I think you are speaking eloquently and right on point regarding our present situation, term, and condition. I'd like for you to talk just a little bit more about the real ID.
Okay. The real ID was introduced to us 18 months to 2 years ago. People were sleeping it. So what they're going to do is they're going to take your license and put a mark on it in the Bible. Remember they said the beast, well, you would know the beast by its mark? Okay.
That's right.
So they put a mark on it so that they instantly identify you and keep you in a U.S. citizen status. So what that real ID does is give them more control of you. Now they know everything about you. You know, they already got a good indication now because of the internet and how we sign up and stuff with the social security number, the birthday, address. All of those entities are important because that's how you are identified. So when they search, they'll put these elements in, and it'll come directly to you. Now, they can dictate subliminally through TV, through radio, through print, through media, how they can control you. So now, the license now, I think in a couple of states they have that going. If memory serves me correctly, I think you and I had a talk offline where you said that is instituted in Georgia. That after a while, you serve the real ID. I don't know what the consequences are. You probably know a little bit more about it than me. That it will put you in a certain status and then treat you a certain way.
Right. In Missouri, our friends in Missouri and Kansas City and St. Louis, they, I believe, are not under the privy of a real ID. And so they need what you have right now, which is a national passport.
Yes, you're going to need that passport, and you need to have that passport in your proper status. Even if you don't know right now what you need to do, and Earl, here's the important thing. Before you can do what I'm doing and get what I'm doing, you have to have it in your mind first. You have to research. You have to become that because they call this standing on the square. When you confront it to defend yourself, you got to be sharp. And you have to know and be very knowledgeable what you're talking about. And then a lot of times, the people that's confronting you, you're educating them. So you're going to find some resistance. So you have to stay calm. You can't be, we are people that act with emotions quite often. You know what I mean? Because we try to establish ourselves. So sometimes in doing that, you become belligerent to the person who is trying to obtain that knowledge. And you know how they think when you're belligerent. They get defensive. And now you can't explain yourself. And now they automatically assume and will adjudicate you on the spot.
Wow. Very well put. Bobby Wonder, we've got to do it definitely again right here on Magic108FM.com. The phone lines are just going crazy, are going bonkers. Next time we're going to get prepared for you to answer some questions.
Good deal. I'm available, and always, man, you and I always work hand in hand, and anything I can do to support you, I will, because it supports me as well.
Thank you, Bobby Wonder. Earl Z. Pearl, Magic108FM.com.